With deep sorrow, I must announce the death of our Holy Father. Pope Francis has died. But as millions weep, others fall silent, because they know his death didn't just end a life. It fulfilled a prophecy, an ancient warning, buried for centuries in the Vatican's secret archives, the prophecy of Saint Malachy. 900 years ago, the Irish monk Malachy walked through the cobbled streets of Rome. When he collapsed into a trance, he saw what no man had ever seen, a line of popes stretching from his time to the end of days. He recorded 112 mysterious mottos in Latin, one for each future pope, some symbolic, some chillingly precise, and the final one, the 112th pope, Peter the Roman. After him, no more pontiffs, only judgment. And now, with the death of Pope Francis, the last name has been crossed out. But wait, Francis, Peter the Roman, yes. And here's why. He was born Jorge Mario Bergoglio in Buenos Aires, but his blood Italian. His parents were from Piedmont, northern Italy, Roman by ancestry. They left behind a fascist Italy, hoping to build a future in Argentina. Francis was Roman by lineage, and while he wasn't named Peter, he chose the name Francis after Saint Francis of Assisi. And here's where things get eerie. Saint Francis' real name, Giovanni di Pietro di Bernardone. Giovanni, son of Peter. Symbolically, Francis was Peter the Roman. He matched the prophecy perfectly. Pope number 112, Roman by blood, named after Peter, and his reign marked by tribulation. Inside the church, fissures deepened, cardinals turned on each other, conservatives versus progressives. Some accused Francis of heresy. Others wrote public letters condemning him. He was called dangerous, even satanic by some corners of tradition. Why? Because Francis didn't come to please. He came to serve. On his return flight from Brazil, he said, "If a gay man accepts the Lord and has goodwill, who am I to judge?" That one sentence shook the world. It humanized a pope, but it enraged the hardliners. Still, Francis stood his ground. He introduced the world to a word many had never heard before: synodality, a church that walks together, where not only bishops but the laity, women, the excluded are heard. He pushed for a more horizontal church, less clerical, more compassionate. And then came the storms. Literally, Francis led the church through a chaotic modern era. The war in Ukraine, Christian persecution in the Middle East, the rise of populism and fear, and in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic. Temples closed, pilgrimages stopped, St. Peter's Square stood empty, rain fell, and there, alone in silence, Francis stood before the Blessed Sacrament, a solitary figure of faith in a world lost in fear. He whispered to the world, "We are not alone." Francis took risks no pope ever had. He went to Iraq, war-torn and dangerous. He met with Muslim and Christian leaders, calling for unity. He embraced the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, broke centuries of tension with the Orthodox Church, and signed a historic document on human fraternity. He wept at Auschwitz, washed the feet of prisoners, immigrants, and women, visited hospitals, refugee camps, and the abandoned. He didn't just preach mercy, he lived it. But remember the prophecy? Peter the Roman will shepherd his flock through many tribulations. Tribulations, Francis had many. And now, his mission is over. And the next line? When these things have ended, the city of the 7 hills will be destroyed, and the terrible judge will judge his people. 7hills.Rome.Judgment. But this destruction isn't just physical. It could be spiritual. A collapse of faith, of identity, of truth. Scholars warn the next leader may not be a true shepherd, but a wolf in sheep's clothing. The false prophet of Revelation. The man of sin Paul warned about. A leader who looks holy, but speaks like a dragon. He had 2 horns like a lamb, but spoke like a dragon. The question echoes louder than ever. If Francis was the last pope, who comes next? Malachy's prophecy wasn't random. It was stunningly accurate. Celestini, too, the first pope in the list, from the castle of the Tiber. He was born near the Tiber River, John Paul I. From the half-moon, elected on a half-moon, died 33 days later, under another half-moon, John Paul II. From the labor of the sun, born during a solar eclipse, died during another, Benedict XVI. The glory of the olive, symbol of peace, and the Benedictine order, each motto, lined up with terrifying precision. So, when the prophecy says Francis is the last, we have reason to pause. His story begins with pain. As a young man, Jorge Bergoglio suffered a terrible lung infection. Doctors had to remove part of his lung. For days, he lay between life and death. And in that sterile hospital room, he encountered something sacred, fragility. He didn't pray to be healed. He prayed for understanding. Why was he suffering? What did it mean? He survived, but he was never the same. Each breath became a gift, a mission. And then, in 2013, he became Pope. The first Jesuit, the first Pope from the Americas, and the first in centuries to take the name Francis, not a title of power, but of humility. From day one, he broke protocol. He rejected the palace, refused the red cape. He chose simplicity and walked into a storm. The church was wounded. Sex abuse scandals were erupting across continents. Victims were demanding justice. Francis didn't hide. He faced the cameras, the critics, and the cries. He wept with victims. He apologized publicly. He began reforms deep, painful ones. But institutions don't change easily. He encountered resistance, networks of silence, power structures that didn't want the truth exposed.